All right, kids, we are back. So, I gotta do some deep cleaning in the shop, so I'm gonna be here for a while today. So, I figured it'd probably be a good time to get this skull on the boil, seeing as I have no time. So we're gonna double up on it today. So I have not put hands on these since I put them in the pot. You all should be very, very happy that you can't smell this video. It doesn't smell bad right now because the surface of the water hasn't been broken yet. If you don't like or enjoy, as my kids say, getting yucky, I'd pick up like cross stitch or something, because this is not going to be your friend. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna dump some of the water out, pull the heads out, see how much is massacrated off already. Again, it's been in the high 80s, 90s. This, I think I put it in a week ago. So, which is kind of right about perfect where you want the water temp. So, what we're gonna do, like I said, pull them out. I'm gonna do a quick power wash on what I can get off now, and then we'll pop it in the boil and see what happens. I don't think it's gonna take very long. A little tip, when you're dumping stuff out like this, again, I don't know if any of the teeth have fallen out of this yet. If you have like a strainer, or this, I'm just using the planter tray, I would suggest doing that, because you don't want to, especially where I'm dumping it down the drain, it's not, you don't want to lose teeth. So it's a good idea to have something to strain out some of the solids. You're going to catch meat, you're going to catch yucky stuff, but you're also going to catch teeth if they fall out. I don't think any of the teeth are going to be falling out of this guy yet. So I'm going to go ahead, kind of get that going. Actually, before I get too stinky, we'll bring you over here and show you. I will try and find the link to this. This is the burner I use. I used to use the old turkey fryer method, and those work great, but I was going through one every couple months. This thing, I think it's 20,000 BTU burner. It works fantastic. And I love it. Like I said, I'll try and find the link below, the link on Amazon, and toss an affiliate link up for that. And then I just have an 1800 PSI power washer. This thing is on its last leg. Again, I was doing quite a few heads at a time, and using the pressure washer far more than it was probably intended to be used for. So that's something you got to think about, wear and tear on these items. My wife would always get mad at me that things would break, and it's like, yeah, they're not meant to be used constantly like I'm using them. So it is what it is. They're not crazy expensive, but they're an expense. So that's something you got to think about. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in, unfortunately, and start pulling these out. So we're going to reposition this camera a little bit better. That's perfect. Enjoy my faces, because it's not going to be great. So. Oh boy. That actually worked so goddamn well. I'm only gonna have to boil this guy for a little bit. Holy shit. Oh, wow. If you guys are wondering, that's real ripe. Like, that's a lot. Whew. Go ahead, make sure there's nothing else I'm gonna need in here. All right, those aren't bones, those are just, or those aren't teeth, those are just bones. So that's awesome. All of the teeth did loosen up really well. So what I'm gonna do, I'll wait. I'll probably end up putting them in one of these buckets just for safekeeping. Again, you want to make sure you know where your teeth are. Skull's not going to look real great with no teeth. So, and I have made that mistake before. And of course, naturally, when I'm talking again, we got the compressor. Last time it wasn't too bad, but again, I apologize if that noise bothers you. Yikes. Again, you can see all of that stuff is coming loose. So as soon as we get this thing on a boil, all this stuff's gonna fly off. Here's the big reveal. Oh, now that is a tooth. That is awesome. Again, I've never done a pig, but all of the things I have watched on it, they're like, take the teeth out, you're gonna lose them. So we'll come through. I'll pop all these out before I pressure wash anything, because one, like I said, I don't want to lose them. A lot of these feel pretty. We'll see. I might go through, pull out all these molars. Some of them are a little loose, but again, definitely want to take out all these teeth because these are the loosest ones. That is freaking awesome. I can't wait to get this thing on my desk. All right. So what I'm gonna do, we'll get everything sprayed down and see you in a little bit. All right, so if you've ever battered fish or deep fried anything, you're familiar with the dry hand, wet hand method. This works really well for this as well, except it's stink hand, clean hand. You don't want both of your hands absolutely disgusting. Trust me. So I'm gonna keep this one as clean as possible. We've got the power washer all set, good to go. I'm gonna go ahead and pull all these teeth and start giving this thing a good power wash down. See what we can get off, and then pop it on the boil. So. All right, so as you can see, that cleaned up really nice. I'm not gonna have to put this in the boil for very long at all to get off the rest of this fun chunky stuff. So I am gonna go ahead, get the pot cleaned a little bit so it's not completely gross. It's pretty gross for sure. Like I said, yucky. We're gonna go ahead and toss this in, get a good boil going. I add OxyClean to things like this. Like I said in the last video, it's a great degreaser. It's what it's built for, it's what it's made for. I don't think Billy Mays had this in mind when he was tossing it out there, but what we're gonna go ahead and do, I'm gonna go ahead and probably pop you on time lapse, get that bucket filled, and we'll be good to go to get boiling. All right, so we got it filled up, got our OxyClean put in, bam. So we're gonna go ahead, toss this on the burner. We'll get this lit first. This is the point where giant letters come across the seat. across the screen that say, don't try this at home. Because this thing is kind of interesting to light. I didn't need that hair anyway. So just so you can see, that's full tilt. That's right about where we want it. We'll get this on first, then I'll talk. So, I know they call it the boil method. You don't really want to boil it. You really want to just have it on a nice low simmer, because if you boil it too much, it actually damages the bone. And things start to break, jaws start to come apart. But if you have it on a nice good simmer, it's kind of like cooking a pot roast. You don't put a pot roast in a giant pot of boiling water. You put it in an oven on a low simmer for a couple hours at a time. That's kind of the same concept here. Again, this thing is so clean already. I'm so excited. I was thinking I was going to have to do so much work with this. We'll probably let this go for, once it gets to a simmer, I'll let this go for about probably another half hour, 40 minutes. We'll pull it out. We'll see what everything looks like. I'll cover that. Don't get censored on YouTube for nudity. And we'll come back and see what happens. That being said, you don't want to wear your Sunday best when doing this. You're gonna get gross. You just are. I probably shouldn't even be wearing my cowboy boots, but these things are so beat to shit anyways, it doesn't matter. There are so many times I've gone in from doing skulls, deer skulls, bear skulls, cow skulls, whatever, and my wife has just pulled stuff out of my beard getting into bed to the point that she's hit me and made me take a shower in the middle of the night, which I understand. It's pretty gross. But you're gonna get covered, especially if you don't macerate and you do full boil, and you'll see it more than likely when I spray at the brain cavity. Luckily, a 45 long Colt did a lot of the scrambling on the brain for me and put a decent sized hole in the back of it, so I'm not really gonna have to worry about that. But a lot of the time, the brain cavity is just an oval inside the skull. And what happens when you put high pressure water into that hole? It goes around and shoots back right at you. So that's happened quite a bit. I don't think we're going to have much of an issue with that this time, because again, 45 long Colt did its job. But you're going to get messy. This is not a clean job. And depending on who you are, if you're an insane person like me, it's fun. But it is what it is. So what I'm going to go ahead and do, I'm going to start cleaning the shop, get a bunch of dishes done. We'll pop back out in a little bit and see what this all looks like. So we'll see you then. All right, so these things have been going for a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and pull them out. These forceps are an awesome thing to have. You can get them on Amazon. I think they're super cheap. They're like 10, 12 bucks. So let's see what these guys look like. So yeah, already you can see a lot of this extra junk getting loose. Yeah. All right, so now you can see she's super clean. Now it's super important, and yeah, you could see me do it on there. All of these little holes, and you'll find these on everything. You can see them up here. These are all where blood vessels run through the skull to supply blood to different places. You need to get the pressure washer in there and really spray those out. I mentioned it in the last video with this. but you can see it better now. On like a cow, you can see it a little bit. These are two separate pieces that usually come out. But with a pig, their olfactory senses are so much stronger that this is actually just one solid piece that you don't really have to worry about popping out. So what I am gonna go ahead and do, there are a couple spots like that. All right, that's just extra fat. And you'll see it a little more on this one. I'll pull that off right now. But yeah, that could still use a little more love. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and toss this in the color bath. So the color bath, and I'll show you when I pull everything out. I use pool shock. It's like a pool peroxide. You can use, I forget the name of it now, but it's like a hair product, and it's all essentially a peroxide, like a 40% diluted peroxide. I'll try and find the link for the peroxide you can get on Amazon. But you dilute it with water, and what it does is it eats away at the surface of the bone and makes it completely white. So I'm gonna go ahead, pop this off, get the color bath going, and we'll pop you on in a minute. All right, so this is the peroxide I use. I pick it up at Ocean State Job Lot. They actually don't carry this exact one anymore. When I was doing a shit ton of them, I bought it in bulk. I bought like $300 worth. I mean, it's like $12.99 a gallon of these, so I have a ton. I've put about 3.5 gallons in there already. I'm gonna go ahead and pop these guys in first. Do a little water displacement there, see how much more water I need to put in. So like I said, all of this needs to come off. This is just extra cartilage. Again, most of it's already peeling off. This side's a little chunky. I'm gonna leave these in here for a little bit longer than I would a deer skull. If you leave a deer skull in the color bath, oh boy, you are going to wreck that skull. I'm gonna let this guy go for a little bit in here, because like I said, there is some sections that need to be cleaned up a little bit more. And also, it's pig head, and I massacrated it. So it's gonna be super fatty. And we're just gonna let that do its work. I like to, again, come along and check these teeth. They are a little wiggly. We'll just be real gentle with them. We don't want to lose any of those. But again, that's why we have a way to kind of sift them out to make sure if we do lose any, we have it. So also, as you can see by all the caution signs and the fact that it's in a plastic bag, this is insanely corrosive. Do not get this on your hands. You will feel it, it will burn, and it'll turn your hands white. It's not super fun. I've done it quite a bit. Probably not the healthiest. Might explain a lot. But we're gonna go ahead and dump this in. So, once again, don't do this at home. Again, we don't really want to boil this. Again, it's called the boil method. Don't boil it. You're gonna ruin it. Again, these pig skulls are pretty hardy, so I'm not too worried about it. But we're just gonna let this guy go for a while. Let it get to a boil, or a simmer, not boil, simmer. Once it's at a simmer, it'll sit in there for, I'll probably let it go for a half hour or so. On a deer skull, I only do about 10 minutes. Cow skull, depending on the size and what breed and if it's got horns and stuff like that, again, it'll probably be a half hour, 40 minutes. So we'll come back and take a look at it. We'll bring you over. That's what everything looks like in there. Everything's covered. What we are also going to do is, I have a small, and I found out these work fantastic. They're called spaghetti strainers. So in the restaurant industry, when somebody orders a thing of spaghetti, they just don't have a giant pot of spaghetti going. It's a large cylinder colander, essentially. And that just goes in the pot. So what we'll do is, once all of that is clean, we're gonna go ahead and take some of the water out. You can reuse your color bath over and over again for a while. So we'll go ahead, put that in buckets, and then take enough out that it'll just cover the teeth. We'll toss those in, and again, those will probably go in for another half hour, another 15-20 minutes. They're not going to take off as much color just because of how absolutely hard and tough they are. So, but we want to make sure they're all white. Want to make sure everything is somewhat of the same shade. So we'll do that, and when it's time to pull these out, we'll see you guys again. All right, we're back. So this has been in here for about 45 minutes to an hour. Naturally, I couldn't find my spaghetti strainer, so what we did, mason jar. I did a little bit of extra peroxide in it, just because the enamel on those is going to need a little more. Again, all of this is going to go through a second color bath after it gets out of the acetone, but this helps. It helps pull some of the grease and everything out before it goes in the acetone. So I'm going to go ahead, get this stuff pulled out, see how it looks. Naturally, as soon as I come over to talk, the air compressor comes on. So as you can see, this thing cleaned up really nice. There's still a little tiny bit of cartilage on that one, but again, 6 months in the acetone is going to dry that out real nice. You can see there's nothing left on any of those ridges right in there, and this guy is squeaky clean. Even the powder burn around the hole is mostly gone. This guy he's going to be such an awesome desk mount. But let's go ahead and pop. So there's that. So it already looks pretty badass as is. So once those teeth get back in there, I'm not going to bother putting the teeth in right now, just because they're going to come out right away. But then also, I do have a YouTube channel, so I'm going to go ahead, pop the teeth back in this, and we'll see what she looks like. All right, so as you can see, I didn't put in all of the teeth, but it is gonna look freaking awesome. Now, what's nice about these, I mean, just as is, it looks pretty fantastic. Just that. So this is actually a good representation of how a pig's teeth work, especially a boar like this, where it is the Ospa and the Mangalitsa, which are a lot more, they're not wild, but they have more wild pig genetics in them. Well, the Ospas are basically wild. But how these teeth work is every time, these aren't glued in, so I'm trying to do this the best I can. Every time a pig opens his mouth, these teeth hit these teeth. These are your cutters, and these are your wetters. Much like a whetstone. That's where that kind of comes from. So every time this pig opens and closes its mouth, it sharpens these. So these things are freaking, they're pretty sharp. Like, you wouldn't want to get hit by one of these, especially with, if you looked in the last video, how much muscle tissue is in there. These things will tear you up, and they'll tear you up real quick. And what's cool about the cutters in these is that you don't have to put them in exactly how far they were before. So you can fib a little bit. We'll adjust that. And now you got something that looks even meaner. More than likely I'll put them in all the way, just for a good representation. But I mean, You can't beat that. That is going to be an awesome desk mount. So what I'm going to do now is I will go ahead and slide that over. So what we have here is a 5-gallon bucket of acetone. So all we're gonna do, I'm gonna pop these teeth back out. And we are gonna say goodbye to Senor for about 6 months. Like I said, he looks super clean. And as it dries, you can see how white some of that stuff is. But this thing is full of grease. Like, I can't even explain to you how much grease is in this pig's head. So, even 6 months might not be enough, but that's what we're gonna call it. So, everybody say goodbye to Senor. Bye, Senor. And he is going to go right in here. And naturally, it starts to rain right at the end of the video. So we're gonna go ahead, do that. The nose is sticking out slightly, but I'm not too worried about it. And you can see all those bubbles going in. And the last thing we're gonna do, because I don't want the teeth to get lost at all, that's just a little mason jar. I'm gonna take all these, toss that in there, get the wetters in there, toss those cutters in. And now, we have, what was in here before? Looks like porcupine was in here before. So now, we're gonna get out of the rain for a second before I clean this up. I'll clean up in the rain, I don't want my phone in the rain. So basically what that does, like I said in the last video, but now I'm actually showing you, so I'll tell you again. What that does is essentially, as the skull sits in the acetone is thinner than the fat that is in the skulls. So it's able to work its way into the skull and push out all of the fat that's in there. If you ever see like a bear skull, or a pig skull, obviously, but like a bear skull, coyote skull, anything that has like a super, like, can't think of the word of what to use with it, but a super fatty animal that all that fat leaks into the actual skull itself. So after about 6 months or so, I know some people that put grizzlies in for a year. Like, it doesn't hurt the skull. It doesn't hurt the skull in any way. I've had a couple bear skulls in there for about a year just because I couldn't get to them in time. But it doesn't hurt the skull at all. And when you pull it out, again, all that fat's pulled out. I usually put it through another color bath just to make sure that everything is good and solid. We're not gonna have to worry about it. And gets that super, really nice color, because now you're not fighting the fat at all either. So I'm gonna go ahead and we'll pop Senor over here in the corner of the shop somewhere. I'm gonna pull the teeth put them on my podcast desk so I can be like, hey, look at my pig skull. And we will, I don't know if I'll do a video on it of pulling him out, because it's essentially the same thing you just saw, but we might. It'll be a big reveal. So we'll come back in about 6 months and take a look at them. So I hope this was helpful for you guys. If you have any questions on that, please go down in the comments. Let me know. And please like the video, subscribe if you're not subscribed. We have a pretty awesome podcast coming out tomorrow with Laura from Kenyon Acres. We've bumped her a couple times, unfortunately, with either internet problems or having other guests on. So I'm very excited that she's coming on tomorrow. And it should be a good conversation. So we will see you guys then. And until then, have yourself a great day.